Receive and create. Shine your light. Feel, laugh, inspire, live. Our whole life is emotions. All about the things that make our life brighter. In today's program, secrets of fashion illustration, art of fashion images, important aspects of a sketch. To find the right idea is always difficult. There are days when I can draw all day, and sometimes I can't draw even a flower. I am inspired by nature, by everything that surrounds us. Surrounding environment is a pile of ideas. You just have to look and find something of your own. These are emotions that cannot be conveyed in words. I get inspired and relaxed at the same time. I find myself in such a state of mind. Ordinary people won't feel it. Artists, on the other hand, know what I'm talking about. I paint when I'm sad, when I'm upset about something. You see, only then inspiration comes to me, and only then I can draw, and it makes me feel at ease, as if I travel to another space. When I draw using different colors, I feel like a child. You know, they love bright colors. I feel excited like a kid, and I see images in my head in bright colors, and I feel so good. It's hard to describe in words.
Красочно, очень классно, просто не передать словами это все. Я рисовала с детства, но это было не профессионально, но это было для себя просто. Начала именно заниматься рисунками и рисовать все это 5 лет.
I have been drawing since childhood, but it was not professional. Well, it was just for myself. I began to study drawing and art 5 years ago. At the time, I majored in design, and that's how I came to fashion illustration. Now, in modern fashion magazines, we see accessories, makeup. However, 500 years ago, it was all done with fashion illustration. There were no devices, no cameras. Everything was painted by the artists. Because of their talent, people could see how fashion of the time should look like. Today, the modern technologies and simple art are often combined together. Now, fashion illustrations are used in magazines more and more. First of all, it's very beautiful, and second of all, it shows emotions. The illustration is able to show more than camera. You know, artists like to draw people with right proportions. And in the fashion illustration, you can distort people, make them taller, smaller, maybe bigger than they are in reality. In illustration, you can focus mainly on the images of people. I like to show both emotion and the style of a person. Well, I paint for myself to express my emotions in order to understand what I want to do in the future.
И делают акцент в основном на образах людей. Мне нравится показывать и эмоции, и стиль человека. В основном я рисую для себя, для своих эмоций, для того, чтобы понять, что я хочу делать в будущем, чем хочу заниматься.
Sometimes you think that nothing can inspire you as much as creativity itself, the very desire to create. But I can easily be inspired, for example, by a theatrical performance, a certain look, a word, a person, some changes in myself, in my life, and then it is automatically displayed on paper. I need to draw my inspiration in order to have a desire to live, to love, and to laugh. Only then I will have enough of inspiration to reflect that on paper. I have been wanting to paint since I was a child. Once my brother showed me his drawings. I was like, wow, it's so cool. I also want to paint. Since then, I had this desire. Both my brother and sister, as well as my mother, liked to paint very much. And I think this desire has its roots back in my childhood. But a serious desire developed closer to the end of high school years. It was time when I needed to choose my major and think what I wanted to do in the future. I began to work on myself and develop my skills, and I drew more and more every day.
В основном это карандаши.
Basically, I used pencils, liners, and markers. They are used in drawing a sketch. I like to work while watching films or TV series. I just listen. I rarely pay attention to what's going on there. I just listen to it and draw. Sometimes I don't even look on the screen. I just get inspired and draw.
Я просто рисую и вдохновляюсь. В основном я работаю на бумагах.
Most often, I use paper for my work. I draw by hand. There are people who draw using graphic tables. They like it because it's easy and simple. You can change the color quickly and easily, but I feel like I need the paper. I need to feel it. I really enjoy the process of drawing on paper. You can erase something, you can add something. It's like an emotional way of connecting with paper.
Эмоционально мне нравится именно на бумаге рисовать. Бывает иногда в фильмах я увижу образ чей-то и могу накидать просто набросок.
Sometimes when I see a character in a film, I can just sketch him or her, if it's in an interesting person. I like the characters I saw today. I like their style, their image. I wanted to convey their image in something more than just an illustration, a fashion illustration. Maybe he has an authentic look. He's not like the rest. He might have curly hair, for example, fluffy ones, or bright clothes, or on the opposite, imperceptibly black clothes. Well, if it is a totally black look, then it's very beautiful and very inspiring.
Если total black, это очень красивый и очень вдохновляющий образ.
Astana is developing as well as fashion design. Now there are a lot of designers who open their own boutiques, ateliers, showrooms in our city. There are designers who cooperate with fashion illustrators, they create collections together. Of course, harmony is important here because I see the person's face, I see the image. I need them to match with each other so that they look harmonious. And the face and clothes and in general the whole image. Because stylists, makeup artists work on this image. They all work, and of course, this is all important. It should be cohesive. Fashionable illustrations are experiencing a real renaissance. Graphics and watercolors return to the pages of fashion magazines. And sometimes, designer clothes are used as an advertising platform. In our market, the illustration is just gaining momentum and only on its way to win over hearts. Kazakhstan fashion market is still young. There is no culture and history of fashion illustrations. However, there is a love for a figurative presentation of ideas. The fashion illustration has appeared more than 500 years ago. Etchings of the 16th century can be considered its prototypes, with images of ladies and gentlemen of the court. At that time, one of the first fashion illustrators was a graphic artist, Vaclav Holar. He worked in London in the technique of etching. He created more than 3,000 works in this field. The magazine Mercure Galant, which started the history of fashion magazines, was first published in the late 17th century in French city of Lyon. These magazines were decorated with drawings which came out of the hand of the famous French artists. Then the fashion illustration began to develop actively. The 19th century was the time of its heyday. During that time, a lot of talented illustrators were discovered. They largely influenced the perception of fashion as an art. The difference between an illustration and photography is that when one draws using pencils and colors, he can immediately add to the picture a piece of his fantasy world, whereas photographer creates when catching the right light and beauty of moment of the real world. Sometimes a person can catch my attention with the way he walks, and I want to draw him. I like people on the move, but if people sit graciously on a bench, simply drinking coffee, it's very beautiful, and I want to draw them. It's also inspiring. Nowadays, the fashion illustration is at its rebirth. The entire accumulated experience throughout the history of the fashion illustration is in demand. There are no restrictions. Computer graphics and brush get along peacefully and harmoniously.
Комп'ютерна графіка і кисть уживаються мирно і гармонічно.
To those who make their first steps in this area, the recipe of success is simple. Be bold and draw. Don't be sorry for yourself. Catch the moment.